trapped a bunch of aging role-playing gamers in their homes, forcing them to crawl out of their pen and paper comfort zone and into the online world of virtual tabletops and video calls. So join them as they raise the curtain to share their stories, insights, and love of all things geek. So grab your longsword and your +1 bottle of Viagra and get ready for another episode of Advanced Age Role-Playing Gamers Podcast. That's a lot of syllables for one sentence.
Hello and welcome to the Advanced Age Role-Playing Gamers Podcast. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Nathan, and I've got with me...
I'm Matt, your other host.
And I've got Christian from My Sound Delv, who... if you haven't heard of them, we're going to talk about this today. But if you've seen soundboard apps, and this is kind of like a new, unique spin on soundboard apps. I'm in my own brain, I'm calling it like a sonic character sheet.
Cool.
So Christian, why don't you go ahead and take it away, introduce yourself, and talk a little bit about My Sound Delv, what it is.
Thanks, Nathan and Matt. I appreciate the opportunity to chat a little bit about My Sound Delv and me as a creator in the TTRPG space. So, name's Christian Borche. I live in central New York. I'm the father of two. My day job is business-to-business sales, and my night job is sound engineering. And so I make sound effects and have partnered with a developer to create an app. Like you said, it's a soundboard app. And really what I wanted to do was make something for my players to have for their agency and something unique. And I just couldn't find something that's in the market. There's a lot of Dungeon Master tools, but there's not much out there for players in the audio space. So I thought I would fill that gap.
That's pretty interesting because I've been fiddling around with it the past couple of days, and it's definitely something that, you know, each player would have their own version with all their stuff in it. And the stuff that I'm used to with like tabletop audio, stuff like that, is really about all the backgrounds and kind of generic battle noises and stuff like that. It's not really anything unique to that session, you know.
Right.
You know, a red dragon, in one game, you know, is going to sound the same as the next one, you know, whether they're, you know, small, medium, large. So I thought this was kind of interesting to, you know. So how? And I'm assuming you use this in your own games.
I do. Yeah. In fact, all of my players use it as well. So it's fun to see what they come up with sounds, because the reason I call it My Sound Delv is because it's not mine, Christian's. It's yours, Nathan's. It's yours, Matt's. Right? It's anybody's, because as soon as you start to match your character or the creature that you're running your game, it's unique to you. And so I wanted that. And from the initial design, I also wanted a place where people could import their own sounds and also record their voice in the app as a feature, so that you could have your own battle cry, or you could record your own verbal components to accompany the 200 plus spells that I have in there.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool, because I've used like just basic spell book apps, right? But they're just text, right? It's just, you look it up, you read what it does, and that's about as far as I've gone with some of those apps. So yeah, none of them have had like an audio component to them.
Yeah.
So that sounds pretty cool. It would be nice to have, like, instead of just, because now I'm making the pew pew noises for the wizard. Right?
Yeah, we all do it. You know, and I still do it as well. But actually, I hired initially 9 voice actors for verbal components primarily, but also, oh my God, over 200 different phrases, you know. So it's you know, God's damn it, or like, you know, you can do it, you know. So, you know, things that are encouraging, things that are intimidating, you know, that you can. So like, I think about a battle cry as like a verbal component to an attack, like a weapon attack, or, you know, range or melee weapon, and you know, the that kind of, going up to it and screaming, or like, I don't know, one of my favorites that we record is like, did you just shit yourself? It's like, I could just see and hear, this big barbarian, as we were directing, I'm like, think of yourself as a dragon-born paladin, like you're just really intimidating, and give me the you just shit yourself, and it was great. It was a fun session.
Well, that'd be really fun. I know around our gaming table, we've developed some like catchphrases, right? Yeah. Like it just happens, right? Like we have like when someone will do like the rules lawyering, like we'll go back like in post for our show, and we've actually created like a little blue falcon sound, but that would be great. Any player at any given time, someone, very dynamic, said we're doing it in like post-production at the table, literally pushing their button and playing. Hey, you just blue falconed me, buddy, That's
exactly it. And I've had a lot of fun with fumble sounds. The trombone is just a great
yeah, we do a womp,
great
womp.
instrument for that. Yeah, exactly. That womp, womp, womp is just wonderful.
Yeah, and it honestly, so we've had our podcast a little bit over a year now, and I do all the sound design, and it takes. I've gotten the dialogue editing down pretty quickly, so I can get that done in 2 or 3 days, along with my day job. But the sound design takes me about another week. Because I'm doing individual sounds, so we have a rock band themed game right now, and the lead guitarist is a barbarian who uses an axe. So when he hits with the axe, it makes a detuned guitar string sound along with that. So because that's his axe. So but that takes it's a lot of work for me to do all that.
Right. Let me make a suggestion then.
Sure.
So if you were to record a few variations of that, and then put that on like a Google Drive, and then you share that Google Drive with your game group, and then they used my sound out, they could import all of those in and make that part of their real-time action during your game sessions.
Yeah, that could totally work. And it's I've had a lot of fun making the sounds, and I actually have at least for each game I've been creating like a library for each player for each spell they cast and stuff like that. So it'd be nice to have something that I do like having the control, but I wouldn't mind too much if I hand a little tiny bit of the control back to them. But
well, I think it would be great, especially if we did more disconnected, right? So it's one thing if you're going to record and then you're going to go meticulously go put things in, but if we're just playing, like so every year we get together for something we call Geek Weekend. I think we're getting ready to do our 9th year this year.
Yep.
And it's just we head out somewhere like West Virginia, somewhere in a big house in the middle of nowhere. At which also I think you've probably got something for your app. It's a disconnected app.
Correct.
So we go up into the mountains of West Virginia, and it's right because we've all got it's got the content. Sorry, I was getting smart. I was watching some of your stuff. So that's so it's really great. So we struggle like if the house doesn't have good Wi-Fi. Sometimes we're out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. But we eat too much, we drink too much, and we play way too many games. But that would be a great place for us to have our own sounds. Yeah. When we're at the table.
I wanted that as a feature so that it would function without Wi-Fi. So what happens is all of the sounds are in your device, whether you've imported them or you've downloaded the subscription level, which I'm getting close to 3,000 sounds now. Yeah.
So where'd you learn your audio engineering? Did you are you self-taught? Did you go to school?
I am self-taught. So there's courses offered actually through LinkedIn. It's like Linda's courses. Oh yeah. And there's some professional sound engineers. So I watched some of those, got really overwhelmed. Went to YouTube and it continued to get overwhelmed. But what term I kept hearing was Audacity. And then, so I'm like, okay, well, let me give that a shot. And so I started looking and playing around with that. watching some YouTube videos specific to Audacity and learning some tricks that way. And then I've just learned from doing, which is really a great way of learning.
Yeah.
It's not theoretical, it is realetical, right? I mean, it's and it's funny. I listen to some of my original sounds and I'm like, oh, I would have done something different. I've actually gone back and re-edited some. In fact, here's a funny story. For any creator that's out there, you've got a vision and you want to execute your vision. And so for me, I wanted verbal components. So I actually created 3 languages. I created 3 dictionaries, one for Arcane, Divine, and Druid. And I made a word so I basically created an English phrase, enemy, you shall die. And then I would convert it into what I referred to as Delvin. And then that's what my script was for the voice actors. And so I made one for Magic Missile. I made one for Web. So every single one had a specific phrase to it. I'm all excited about it, whatever. And then about, because I launched November 13th, 2020. Mm-hmm. Around January, I'm like, I want to make some more spells. And so I'm in the creative process and I'm making spells. And then I realize, oh, shit, I don't have any more verbal components. And I spent $9,000 on voice actors. I'm like, I can't. I don't have the money to go back and hey, can you record some more? I got some more spells for you. So how do I get around that? So I actually went back through and I spliced a number of longer phrases that were done. And then what I ended up doing, instead of calling Magic Missile, I called it Arcane Evocation Spell 1. And then, so maybe that was 2 pieces. So then it could be Evocation 2, Evocation 3. So then I went back through and I made sure all of my voice actor work was the same. So I had to go back through, it was over 700 individual and cut them into pieces and re-engineer all of that. And I did that over the February break where the kids were home from school. I took some time off and just locked myself in the basement and spent time doing that. But I have no regrets because now I don't have to hire out more voice actors. I could just keep making spells. And there's, typically, I think there is, each school of magic has got, 5 to 8 options. So it's just called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 conjuration, right? Or illusion or whatever. And that was a way for me to get around that. So as a creator, sometimes I really struggle with being too specific or too generic. And it's that magical mix when you hit it just right. It's yes, awesome. Beautiful.
I'll tell you, so I went to school, a place called Full Sail, which used to advertise in the back of Rolling Stone.
I remember that, yeah.
And went there and worked at the school for about a year and did an internship at a place called Sound Deluxe, which is a pretty amazing place. Didn't work out for me because the show that I was supposed to work on, was a Tarzan show back in 1996, 97. Ended up going to some South African studio instead of this Sound Deluxe. But so that would have been my career, and hence why I'm doing this for free for fun. But when I was there, I got to work with this dialogue editor, Neil Anderson, I think it was, and what you did with those spells was something that totally amazed me watching him edit a dialogue, because there's this scene where there's a Harvey Keitel movie. He's crawling through a sewer drain, and he had to get do an ADR session, automated dialogue replacement session, where basically the actor has to come back to the studio 3 months after the film's wrapped and everything, and just record lines. And in this case, it was just effort sounds. And he basically said he did a shitty job. but he had all this recording, and he did exactly what you did. Is he took this big long recording session and cut it up and spiced it little tiny pieces and matched things up and changed levels until they kind of fit. And watching the movie, you'd never know because it just fits. So
yes.
that skill that you use is a very important dialogue editing skill that in addition to this stuff, you could use for feature films. So
yes, yeah, yeah. Interesting. Like one of the tricks that I learned, and I didn't learn it on my own. I watched somebody, like the best 5 tricks for Audacity. It was like one of their YouTube things, and it was like I edit from back to front. And I didn't know exactly what they meant until I really got into it. And it's so true. If you edit from the front to back, you're constantly re-editing things to get things in. So it's much better to start from the back and pull it toward the front. Mm-hmm. You actually end up saving yourself more time.
Yeah, I use Reapers. It works a little bit different from Audacity, but yeah, I know how Audacity works. Everything kind of slides. If you edit from the front, everything kind of slides forward. So yeah,
it does, yeah.
Which is one reason why I probably haven't, never really used Audacity. I was like, oh, that's weird. But
you're a snob.
I am such a snob.
Yeah, I don't have that. And it's funny. The first group of voice actors I hired were very, I don't want to say hoity, but they're very professional. And I wanted to hire some other, and they're like, oh, well, they're not of our ilk, right? Like, oh, you want real voice actors, and you want real, you may want to hire out sound editing, because if this thing really hits off and takes off, and you're at a convention and people are like using the app, you want to hear really crisp sounds and whatever, and I'm like, yeah, okay. Like I save everything in MP3 because I want to save space instead of WAV. And some people are like, oh, you have to do WAV because that's the creme de la creme, and I'm like, dude, this is people sitting in their basements, like just, they've got ambient sound going on in the background. Actually, no. The trick to it is playing on a Bluetooth speaker.
Oh.
Okay. And in fact, you can't see, we're not recording for video, but I just bought a whole bunch of Star Wars little minifigures that are also Bluetooth speakers, and so I'm going to RavenCon. Cool. I'm going to RavenCon later this month, and so I've got the Mandalorian, I've got R2-D2, I've got Chewbacca. So I'm going to have a whole bunch of Bluetooth speakers around the table for my game sessions.
Well, I am recording video too, just so you know.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I did that long reach earlier.
So that's pretty cool. So like each person have their own little Bluetooth speaker that's fun for. And what game are you running?
So I'm running Starfinder, and it's a one shot.
All right, I love Starfinder. He hates Starfinder.
Oh, really?
I love, yeah. I love Starfinder. I ran a game for a long time.
Love the game.
This is one of the few systems I think we are completely opposite on.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, see, I cut my teeth mostly in the D&D world on 3.5. So for me, Starfinder is a perfect thing. But I want to share one more thing with you. Since we're on video, I can do this. One of the things that I did. I saw like the combat wheelchair had created some kind of stink, if you will, in the community. Don't know why, but inclusivity's a good thing, and so I actually have a wheelchair bound Shiren Technomancer, and last October I did a disability inclusion sound theme. So every month I do a new theme, and I had hired 4 disabled voice actors and 1 disabled artist to do the artwork for that month's release. And so I've got like wheelchair slams in there and a bunch of inclusive sounds. And I'm going to repeat that this October as well. So I'll just keep adding, because if I've got like running Foley, I should have rolling wheelchair Foley, right? Because there are people that play that. So anyway, we can go back and talk about 3.5 easily.
Yeah. So how'd you start gaming? Like what got you this into this?
Well, in 1986, my parents moved the entire family, all 6 kids, to central New York, and we were on a small cul-de-sac surrounded by cornfields, and I had nothing to do. There was no devices at that time, right? We had some desktop computers, but they were pretty simple games, and we did play them. Great game was Exodus Ultima 3, which was on an Atari. Oh, my God. Such a great story, really detailed. I had a binder, and we would like write down like all the interview questions and everything, all the coordinates where you'd find herbs. Oh, it was awesome.
We could totally have a whole session on like. So I was a fanatic of Lord British, Richard Garriott.
Yeah.
And so all of the Ultimas. One of my geek moments is I got to meet him. And I got him to sign one of his cloth maps of Britannia. And so, this was ages ago. But no, all the Ultima games. Those were totally awesome.
Yeah, really fun game. And so I got into D&D with a neighbor who got a book, and we just started reading it. We never really played it because it was just 2 of us. So then I joined the scouting group in my town, and my world changed because not only was I learning life skills and citizenship and first aid and all that, but man, when the scout leaders went to bed, we'd pull out our dice and we would play till the wee hours of the morning. And one summer, 1987, it's 87, 88, something like that, I went to Boy Scout camp and I worked there for the whole summer. And we played most nights. It was an epic campaign. It was really wonderful. But the funny thing is, you said you played a lot in college. Mm-hmm. I had like 2 sessions in college, all 4 years. That was it. I just didn't have a gaming group, and more importantly, I didn't have the books.
Yeah, it was kind of our heyday. They actually had a club, so it was an official, like, had a charter and everything, and so we had like a faculty sponsor. I don't know if it really positively helped our grades.
But absolutely not. But we would.
You know what does help? Yeah. It helps with anxiety. It helps with emotional intelligence development. Yeah. And what's interesting is stats have showed you can be the smartest person in the world, but emotional intelligence is actually the driver of revenue for any job you have.
That's very cool.
True. Yeah. So it's kind of funny. So the guy that introduced me to D&D when I was like 12 was also the guy who brought me into Scouts. His dad was the scout leader, and we did Scouts all through high school. So this is Jeremy. So
okay.
And so there's definitely a lot of. I don't think we actually brought the books on camping trips, but we definitely did some theater of the mind. Well, not quite LARPing, but next best thing.
Yeah, but I'm actually dungeon mastering our scouts this weekend. We're camping out Saturday night. my son is in the troop.
Nice.
Yeah, but my son tried it, and it was he preferred soccer, so he's stuck with that.
Sure.
Matt, your kids play now too, right?
So my daughter. So it is. I don't really push a lot of my dorkness on my kids. They've seen stuff, but I'm not like, thou shalt watch Star Wars, right? But I was so proud. This year, my daughter, their school has now, she's at a grade where they have after school things, and she came home like the first week of the new year, and she's like, I joined the D&D club. And then just a couple weeks ago, she actually went to her first out of school at a friend's house, like all day long Saturday game. And I couldn't, it's like, couldn't be prouder. It's like, so yeah, my son, he's more of a video game guy. He's not really, he hasn't really crossed over yet.
Yeah, my son, he'll play with me, but his friends aren't so interested. Again, I think that video game temptation is really strong, and they're just, I don't know, it's more immediate. But that's part of what I wanted to bring into my sound delve was some of that immediacy of some of the, Baldur's Gate, I had that back in 2000, right? When you could still get it on the floppy disk. And I love that you could pick a personality, a voice, and it would follow you through for that particular character. And I never forgot about that. And so that's one of the things that was influential for me for the app, was to actually have personality. So when I hire a voice actor, I kind of tell them what I'm looking for, right? And so they kind of fill that. And in fact, I just pulled images off of Google and made a party. And I'm like, okay, Matt, you're going to be this one. And, Nathan, you're going to be this one. And that's what I want, right? So you can definitely hear in some of those, and I call them, male 1, male 2, male 3, I don't want to influence, because what I may think sounds like a Scottish druid, you might think sounds like a dragonborn barbarian, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't want to influence that in any way.
So, for the people using the app, how do they kind of build up the sounds for their character? How do they kind of go through that? What's the process like for that?
Sure. So I've got my phone here. These are all scenarios. And so you would press plus and build a scenario. And the upper section is an icon, you name it. This section here is the sounds. And so you choose an action sound, a success sound, a fail sound, and whether you play with critical or fumble, you could choose that. Mm-hmm. So when you hit plus, it takes you to the galleries, and you would choose between all sounds, spells, weapons, range, foley, critical, or phrases. And so then you would just plug those in. And then your next section down here is your attack. So you've one D20 or 3D6 or whatever. And then down here, this is one of my favorite features, is the auto calculation of damage or not. So we use this at our game session. So even if somebody rolls the 20, I'm like, success, right? Then what they end up doing is using, I'll just use one of my clerics here. This is a mace. So they use this swift roll bar down here. And so it was successful. They press success. And then you would hear the sound. Oh, that was a fail. I hit the wrong button. but anyway, so if it is a success. Oh, mercy. There we go. 16 points of damage. So it immediately tells me in the table, not only was it successful, but how much damage they did. And so it really moves combat, relatively quickly.
So it's rolling the dice too.
It can, absolutely. It doesn't have to. You can use that swift roll bar. You could roll all your dice and just use that swift roll bar. In my next iteration, it's the screen that comes up will be that swift roll bar, and it will be hit, miss, success, critical, or fumble. And then actually you can add in free sounds, like just add a random sound. Like, I want a piece of Foley, for instance, for that particular scene. So I'll throw it in there. But I'm starting to make skill checks and that kind of thing. But in essence, this is a replication of the character sheet. So these are all my weapons and all my spells for this particular character. So yeah, I could look at the character sheet and then I just reference, I'm gonna cast the spell, right? Detect magic. Here we go. It's terrible. Yeah, it's probably going to come across awful, but anyway, success. And it's that simple. So you create a scenario and you save it, and then you could just download whatever icon you want.
Yeah. So for the people who listen on the audio version of this, is basically, and we'll have links to all the videos he has on his website. But
cool.
It's like one full screen of the phone just filled with icons that have all his actions in there ready to go.
Yeah, so I will say it's frustrating if you're like real time, and you want a sound and that moment has passed and you're still fumbling around searching for the sound. That is not the way to use this app. That you're just going to be frustrated as all hell. You've got to pre-plan. You've got to match your character, different options or whatever, right? But if you go into the sound gallery and you just click all sounds, and then you hit the search button. There is a microphone.
A voice recorder. Okay.
So I can say Fireball, and it would come up, right? Fireball. It just came up.
Nice.
Right. So I can use a voice feature to get down to a sound I'm looking for.
So I had heard something on it. So I had watched an interview, but it's a little dated. It was something about how like nested values. So like you have one icon for like spells, like, so if it's changed, but it was something, I think you'd mentioned like you had one icon for spells and you'd like hold it, put your finger and hold it, and then it would expand and you could like sort through. So ways to reduce sort of the icon creep.
Yes. Yep. So that's a great. Yep. So if I hold a button down, it opens up edit name, change icon, or duplicate. So you make one weapon action, and so like Searing Light's a really good one, because Searing Light, there's different options to it. So I just held it down and re-record. So this is Searing Light for when it's an undead. This is Searing Light for when it's normal. This is Searing Light for another condition, right? When somebody has sensitivity. So I've got one icon, but underneath that icon, there's variations to it, and so you can group sounds. So again, to avoid your icon creep, as you said. Yeah.
Now, when you're creating the sound library in Audacity, how much are you using like licensed sounds versus stuff that you're recording yourself?
That's a great question. I want to say I have personally recorded less than 10 sounds.
Okay.
I have purchased from Boom Library, a company out of Germany. I've purchased their creature pack. I purchased their medieval pack. I purchased their close combat pack. There are guns and assault rifles. So I've purchased 5, and they're like $200 a piece.
Yeah.
But you have them, and they're available for commercial use and a nice license. So before I started any of this, I I found a lawyer, and I gave him my plan, and I'm like, this is what I want to do. I want to do this, but I want to make sure that I'm walking that line that's on the correct side of copyright. Yeah. And so whenever I've looked for a sound house, I share what their license is with my lawyer. He reviews it, and he's an entertainment lawyer, so he knows copyright very, very well, and gives me the thumbs up or thumbs down. So I only use 2 houses. I use Boom Library, and I use Artlist.io out of Israel, and they've got a nice license, and they've got music and sound effects, and you're able to download for $300 a year. It's a perpetual license, so at $300 every single year, I can download 100 sound effects per day, or 40 songs per day. So obviously I don't have time to do that, but but when I'm looking for, like my next sound pack that I'm working on, I'm calling Gadgets and Shadows. And so it's, like a gnome puts a gadget together, or like an artificer has got something. So they're kind of like, I call them Magitech gadgets. And so it's a sound of like gears and rope pulleys and clicks and little things. And so I mash all those kinds of things together. And so when I'm searching for a sound, then I'll go to Artlist, and if I don't have something in my library, and typically what I'll do is I'll download them. I'll go into my download folder, and then I will put in capital letters things like gears, and then an underline, and then now it's the rest of it, yada 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 .artlist, and then I'll bring it over, and that way in my library I've got all my gear sounds together, I've got all my emotes sounds together, all my air, fire, ice, like all those things are kind of grouped together. And then when I use a sound, here's the other thing that's been, I don't know, anybody out there that's doing stuff, that this could be a helpful trick, but I also put at the very end for what it's for. So, for Fireball, 1, right? Because I've got a couple fireballs. Or, a spell for, Spear. or a sound for spear. So I try to keep track of what sounds I'm using in my library, and it doesn't mean I won't reuse it, but I just want to make sure that I'm keeping track of what sound is going into what sound effect. So then I'll mash all those things together. I will then have a folder for every single release, so every month. So next month is Jurassic Echoes, which is a very dinosaur-focused sound theme. I've got 56 sounds that are being released there. Although I do have blow dart, club, spear. I don't want all my sounds to be like too like monster focused, because I don't want to be seen as that's for dungeon masters, because this tool is for everybody at the table. Right. So anyway, I'll put all those sounds in a folder. I'll label it as such. And then I have kind of a master growing list as well, so I can keep track of what release sound, or what sound came out in what release. Started with 1,000, and I'm up to 2,800. I'll push 3,000 this month, but yeah,
nice.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, so I'm not super organized. I have my categories. Like I'll have my whoosh category, then like a weapon category, and a bunch of other things like. But I definitely could use to spend more time naming the sounds. I'm using Pro Sound Effects, which is like
I looked into that. Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
Boom is I looked at them for some stuff, for more like cinematic type stuff. They've got a lot of good stuff for cinematic drums and things like that. But
they do. I think you might be impressed with Artlist.
Yeah, that's one I haven't heard of. Like I've looked at like a sound effect and boom and a few others, but Artlist. I'll have to check that one out. That's but
I haven't done anything with like common license. But in terms of licensing, here's another. So Wizards of the Coast has got the open gaming license, and I'm always referencing that. And if it's so I love Paizo, but it sucks that there's no open license for that, because I have to rename everything. I can't. There's some really awesome technological spells, but I just have to rename them because they're copyrighted the way they're named now.
That's weird, since they kind of got their start from using the OGL, so it's a little counterintuitive for them to be a little. But yeah, hey, that's their playground. That they're allowed to do what they want with it.
It does seem to be a trend, right? So you've got Wizards of the Coast. Free League has a very open sort of like a community publishing environment, right? I think a lot of these publishers are seeing that they can't write it all. They'll never be able to meet all the fans' desires. So why not just crowdsource, right? You've got set some basic rules and let people go and create, and I think the community benefits.
Yeah. Two things on that. So I've got a few goals that I want to do with this app. I've been asked, do you have a web version? The answer is not yet. That's one of my goals. But another goal is I'd love to be an indie creator electronic marketplace for sound effects that support their world. And then have that just be a sound pack that can be purchased one time, and then it enters the library, right? Like, I don't even want any like real money for it, because I'm the interface. So I could be the interface for folks that want. So I'm actually talking with one Kickstarter right now to do sounds, and so anybody that backs it will get sounds, and I'll be in his material that says, hey, if you want to use these sounds in my sound delve, it's a great place to do that. And I'd love to do that more and more, because, like you say, crowdsourcing and independent creators, have got such incredible talent, especially with COVID. Everybody was like locked in, like they're so creative, right? And I'm like, I was thinking I was unique in that, but no. Like, there's just so much stuff out there on Twitter. I can't even keep track of it. And like all these I had to just stop supporting Kickstarters because it was killing me.
He has a problem. Nathan's got a real problem.
That's funny.
Yes, sir.
Well, it is interesting. Like I think of like great ideas. I know So right now it's an app. It's on Apple, and I know when I listened to the previous interview, you were going to move it into Android.
I'm there. Yep, I'm there now. Yep.
Awesome. Yep. Because I know I am forced to have an Apple, but that is not my. I was forced by the powers that be.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm wondering because talk COVID, right? So a lot of us, this podcast came out of not going insane during COVID, right? So we moved our game from pen and paper to online. There's a huge market out there with products like Roll20, Foundry, and all these others. And we use a lot of Roll20, but I have read a lot about companies like Foundry where it's a lot of like independent developers and stuff. And I'm just wondering, that's a whole other market or for potential connectivity. You mentioned like a web app. Has that ever crossed your mind? Integrating with the VTT community, as so many people are still sort of using
Foundry
VTT systems.
Yeah. I've reached out to 3, and not the big ones. Three smaller ones. I figure that's probably the best channel partner I could make. And there really wasn't much of an interest there. There was one that said, you could put your stuff, save it in an OGG file, and you could send it in. But here's where maybe my approach doesn't serve me in the VTT space so greatly. I say everybody but me, has a sound effect. It is the start, it is the middle, it is the end, and that's the sound effect. When I do my sound effects, I actually break them. So I've got just the action. And then I have just the success and just the failure. My app, when you put it together, my app will play them together, but I don't record them together. I record them as separate files. So you can mix and match your results. So you guys could have the same weapons, but they won't sound the same because you've chosen different things, right? That's the way I wanted it. I want ultimate decision customization capability by the end user. But it doesn't work so great. So I actually did spend some time to consolidate a bunch of my science fiction work so that I can use that one VTT's marketplace and put out a bunch of sounds there. And then that user would then essentially go into my sound files and choose, different things. But it's going to be success. And I don't know exactly how that works, other than I'm shooting my sword or whatever I'm playing. But it's not going to have a hit or a miss because it's not tied to the success of the die roll, which is what I wanted. I wanted to have that like anticipation, right? So all my action sounds are the same, but the result is different based on the die roll.
Yeah, and I think I have the same mindset because I'm like when I'm doing the sound effects for the show is like if they're hitting a zombie, I want like a meat sound. If they're hitting an enchanted tree, I want a chopping wood sound.
Right.
So and a javelin sounds different from an axe, sounds different from a sword, and like I mentioned before, one person's axe sounds different from a different person's axe. So the drummer, I use like toms and a kick drum in their weapon attack. So it's it's like nobody knows it's there except for me, but that's the way I wanted it, and because it needs to be an individual for this character because the sound is part of the character to me. So I can totally get where you're coming from, where you want that individual. That character sheet. So it's coming back to my first.
But not everybody has a Nathan in their group, right?
Well, nobody has the time. My kids are gone, so that's the only reason I have time to do this because it takes a lot of time to like throw that together and Yeah, so that's why nobody does it, because it's super tedious.
Well, that was one thing about the app that I thought I really liked was, I guess your scenarios, right? So this idea, I'm thinking like work. Oh my God, workflows, right? Like I can't get, but I like the idea that I could build like, okay, when I swing my sword and then it hits, it does, but without being, because I'm not technical, so I'm not going to go and program a macro or anything like that. So I love this idea of just, okay, I can swing with my sword and it can hit or miss. I can critical or not. I can put a sound of me going like, take that or whatever. And it could be my voice or it could be one of your recorded voices. So I do like that customization.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. In my personal games, I've got Daleks, I've got Rambo, I've got Dukes of Hazzard. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of like random stuff that I pull out. Kirk speeches, right, for Starfighter. We play an Envoy. I mean, what does an encouragement sound like? I got it. Boom. It's Captain Kirk. I don't believe in the no-win society. It's just the no-win situation, right? It's awesome. It's awesome.
In your home game, you can do all that because you don't have to worry about copyright infringement because it's just your home game.
Right. It's a lot more freedom.
And there's sound banks for every movie franchise out there. They can just go out and yoink. And
yes, and so it's important for so I have an import option. So you can import any of those that you want. It lives on your phone. It doesn't go anywhere near our servers. It stays in your device, and you have two choices. You can keep it, play it, or delete it. I guess three choices, right? And then my lawyer's like, that's a great way to do it. That's, because I don't want to be Napster, right?
No. You're the interface. And you're selling sound packs that you spend a lot of time on. That's pretty cool.
It's a labor of love, and it's just wonderful when my group shows up and they pull out all their stuff and the phone is just part of it, right? So it's dice, and another thing, I don't know if you heard about Pixel Dice. If you saw that Kickstarter, so Pixel Dice are Bluetooth dice. So what good is a Bluetooth dice without an interface? And these guys are going open source. So we're programming our app so that I can actually roll physical dice and it will play your scenario.
So what are these guys called again?
Pixel, Pixel, Pixel.
So they have like the API is all there, exposed.
Open source, yeah. So
is it just like a sensor in the die, like it knows which way it's landed based on sort of like a little gyroscope or something?
Yep, exactly. And then the case itself, it charges.
Do they light up in Flash too?
They light up in Flash. They light up in Flash. And what's cool is you can actually go in, plug in, go to their site, plug in what your serial numbers are, and program them to light up in a specific pattern. There's a whole bunch of different patterns.
Like red or something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
That is so cool.
Yeah, and I'm like, that is like the holy grail of like my app, right? Physical dice and sound effects. Holy shit. So I'm excited.
That's a group that you're engaging with, right? To make that connection. Oh, that is really cool.
Yeah, I'll have that first quarter next year available.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Because I'm a Kickstarter backer, and I'm not getting my dice until you may have known there's a chip shortage, and so I'm not getting my stuff until December. So then it will be next year. Will be open market.
Man, there's some really cool stuff coming out.
Yeah.
Now, I guess I have another designy type question for you. Let's take the kind of the combat chair concept. Like when you're trying to create a sound for that, what are your search specs when you're looking for sounds to kind of assemble and layer to create that combat chair sound effect? I'm
assuming you're referring to the wheelchair?
Yeah, the combat wheelchair, yeah.
I really, really struggled in finding there is very little wheelchair sound effects out there, like specifically wheelchair.
Yeah.
But as a sound guy, sometimes the real thing doesn't work, actually. It sounds stupid for whatever reason. It just doesn't sound believable. So you need something that like is a little more than what It really is. It's kind of weird, but that's just the way audio works. So what I have found is actually a lawnmower being pushed works the best. So I'm listening for wheels, and I'm listening for, so it's like a cart. I'm listening, and so I've got a whole bunch of different sounds for wheels. I've got BMX. I've got lawnmowers. I've got office chairs like this, old school office chairs. They sound a little too spinny though, so you have to be careful. And if you slow them down too much, you get this like tinny sound. It just doesn't work right. At least for me, in my I don't have a degree in this, so I the way I do it doesn't sound right.
Don't worry about degrees. I've gotten paid for this. So.
But yeah, those are the things. So anything that's on a wheel. I've even gotten electric scooters because for Starfinder there would be an electronic wheelchair. An electric wheelchair or something that hums, some kind of energy source. So we've got cyber skates, which are like hovering skates, as well as wheelchairs. And so, yeah, that's what I look for. Sounds of rolling, and I just kind of piece things together that sound about right. And and for me, I'm lucky because I'm not doing a movie. So I don't have to have something that's 3-4 seconds long. I can get away with 2 seconds. You know what I mean? Because I can either repeat that 2 seconds, and then in between that I can have like some kind of grunt or whatever. I've got a little bit of freedom in that respect because most of these are for encounters. It's not like I'm wheeling up and I'm going to talk to somebody about, some eloquent speech or whatever. It's mostly combat that I'm focused on. I don't want to take over the entire game. It is real. It's like it's role playing, and then it's some encounter. Oh, you grab your phone for the encounter, right? And that's why I think skill checks are going to be fun for me to focus on a little bit more.
Yeah.
My Jurassic Echoes has got some pit traps, so they're fun. Like pit trapping and falling right onto those spikes. That's a great sound,
I
awesome.
I liked your idea of the you're talking about mechanical sounds like gears and stuff, and I know you were talking about like someone assembling something, and all in the back of my head I kept thinking, oh, traps. Hey guys, this is what you hear. Click, click, click. Just start playing that. Don't say anything. Just start playing. Like click, click. Let the players freak out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. What I've started doing for many of the skill checks is, again, it's a little bit of a departure because I don't think they're worthy of a scenario. I think that it's going to be a dungeon master choice. So those are success or failure. So those fall more akin with what I was saying, like most sound effects are out there. So it's the same action sound, like walking across ice was one that I released last month. So you're walking through ice and you fall through. Or you're walking through ice and you don't fall through. But it's the same setup. So you guys are both walking through the ice, and I'm playing it. Okay, Nathan, and you hear the and then and you make it all the way across. Now you roll. Okay, you're going through and you fall in the ice, right? And so it's set up the same way, but the result can be different, and that's the fun part.
Yeah, so as the players are building the scenarios for their character, the DM, GM could do the same thing. They could set up the scenarios like, okay, I'm going to have, these 3 different types of encounters tonight, so I'm gonna put these together and have those ready to go.
Or they set up one scenario, something like this, where there's a bunch of little icons there, and they call that traps. And they've set up a whole bunch of traps, and then they go into there, and it goes even more. Okay. Oh, okay. So here's a pit trap. Here's this. Here's this. So they can set their own, cheat scenarios up just to be ready, and they would know. I mean, what I do is I've got icons. Like this icon here is Ravenloft, the board game. So if you click on that, those are all the monsters, all the encounter cards, like everything there. And then this is Dragon Heist, a game that I had put through. And so these are all the different things that I prepped for the monsters. Thug, Ghost, Berserk, Ooze, all those kinds of things. So as I'm doing my prep for the module, I'm making scenarios and I'm putting them all up under one icon. So I click that icon and it expands out.
So your workflow would be like you open up the module or whatever, and you just take note of all the monsters that you can see, and then any traps, and you just assemble them all into one icon. Yeah. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
How much time do you think that would take for someone to do? Just to add to their prep time.
I will say you get better with time and practice, and especially if you can duplicate. So if it's a very similar thing, then you can duplicate it. So you don't have to do the same attack dice, the same. I'm just going to change the damage. I'm going to change some of the sounds or whatever. But I can make a scenario if I've got that monster manual or the module that's in front of me, and I'm just kind of like mimicking it. A minute for one scenario is inside a minute. And I actually tested myself because you can record, like Twitter, gives you like about a 45-second video from my phone. So I'm like, let me see if I can do that. So I did. I created a scenario inside 45 seconds and posted that on Twitter. I'm like, oh, cool, I can do this, So yeah, let's say 45 seconds times each monster or NPC.
Yeah, that's totally reasonable.
Yeah, it's not terrible.
And prep time is also, it's like how many, you could probably you could have a sound for everything, right? You could go nuts, right? Or you just pick the key ones, right? So it's scalable to whatever, however you want to introduce that element to your game.
Absolutely.
And for me too, like I use something in post-production called Weaponizer. I don't know if you've heard of it. But basically I just build the weapon action once, and it does. You kind of perform it, so it has some randomization and like kind of the speed for each element and the kind of loudness. I can control that a little bit. So that's kind of the neat thing with some of this stuff is as your app develops. You could introduce things like changing, adding some randomization in there to make it.
That's on our roadmap. Okay. I've got a new wireframe. I hired a marketing firm to hey, help me, give me new eyes on the UX, right? I want to kind of make it a little fresh. So I've got a new icon, right? So it's a 20-sided die. It's got, symbols coming out of it. It's got horns, so I call him Crimble, right, for critical fumble, right? So he's a trickster die. But one of the things is, so I mentioned earlier that in the scenarios, when you click on a scenario and there's the swift roll bar on the bottom, that is going to be expanded, and then that will be the full screen, and there'll be bigger icons. When you edit your scenario in the future, you're going to be able to choose more than one action, more than one result, and what the app will do is just pick a random one for each that you've got in there. So you could put in, 5, 5, 5, 5, 10, whatever, and it would pull random each time. So you as a player won't even know what it will sound like exactly.
Yeah, that's good.
Which I think is to your point about that randomization element is a good feature, and it is absolutely on my roadmap. But to be honest, I need more subscribers to pay for these things. I'm super over leveraged on this project because I love it so much, but the whole VTT thing is holding me back because people aren't getting together the way they have in the past. Yeah. I'm psyched. I'm going to RavenCon.
Oh, nice.
Later this month. I'm going to be face-to-face. I'm giving out 600 stickers. I'm like, I'm trying to get the word out, like and people I'm like, put me in a corner because I'm going to be loud. Our table's going to be loud. We're going to have all these Bluetooth speakers and, pew, 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 your laser guns going back and forth. It's going to be awesome.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Any other cons are you planning on going to this year?
Well, I'm definitely going to Mace in Charlotte in November. That's where I launched. I'm friends with Jim Kelly, who is a crafter. He's the tabletop engineer. And DM Scotty, I don't know if you know any of the crafters from the YouTube world, but I played at his table. I played with Wylock's Army, Bill from Wylock's Army. We played with DM Scotty. It was awesome. So I'm definitely going to go there because there's some great folks there. The guy that started it, Jeff Smith, he passed away. So this is the last Mace Con. They're going to convert it next year to Jeff Con. He started it 26 years ago. And just a really super guy, and so they're changing it to Jeff Con. So I'm tied to that one because I love it. I'm going to go to Syracuse Con because it's my town, and that's also in November. So those are ones that I've got lined up. I'm feeling too small and squishy for Gen Con. I'm just not quite there yet. In my day job, I've been to large conferences. I know what that, and you just get drowned out. I don't know. Plus I need the family approval to do that one. And I know I would spend way too much money.
Yeah, I think it's smaller, more kind of local cons. You get to spend more time with people, and I think our first one was PAX East, and that was pretty big, but it wasn't too big. We actually got to speak to some pretty awesome people. So yeah, it's really important to get face to face. That's why in the business world those big conventions are so popular. Is that getting that FaceTime and because really you were talking about social intelligence earlier, like you want to play with, you want to game with, you want to do business with people that you like and you enjoy and you appreciate and trust and all those things. That's super important.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is it's that an app is an app until you know more about behind it, and like I'm just a guy. Right. I'm not a corporate, like corporation or whatever. Yeah. I'm just like a regular dude who came up with an idea and talked his wife into spending a whole bunch of money on an app, because I'm convicted this is going to succeed. People really need this. But it's interesting. I think the reticence may be partly people don't necessarily think the way they're playing is wrong. And I'm not saying that they are, right, but they may be reticent to change. And certainly the VTT thing is a challenge, although it's hard to, get certain sounds. And they're good for ambient or whatever, but they're not really embracing a lot of sound from my experience. So.
Yeah, no. So I think I mentioned. So there's the role playing aspect of it, but there's also strategy games, board games, right? And I know I was actually up in not Syracuse, but I was up in New York this past weekend, and I made it a point to drop into a place called the Brooklyn Strategist. It's a small gaming place, but it's definitely people are back, right? So there was about half a dozen people on tables playing board games, but the whole back room was all Warhammer 40K. There's this guys packed in there, right? And I'm thinking come on, that's a whole nother. So those people have to almost play. I mean, I know there's some software out there to do virtual, but if nothing is those they want to get out there, because I've done it too. You want to get out there, put your miniatures that you spent hours painting, and you want to go kick somebody else's tail on the table. Right? Oh yeah. That's another great,
That's also on my roadmap. So right now, when you click on your attack dice, it'll, even if you put 2 in, it'll roll up into one number. And so one of the things that's on our roadmap is to support Warhammer or those kind of warband games, so that when you put in 6d6, it's actually 6 different 6-sided dice, not 6d6 for a 1 roll. Right. And so it's a different rules engine that I need to program in. I haven't done it yet. Like my sights are set right now on TTRPG. But you're correct, Matt, that Warhammer. But there are some games that will work, like Stargrave. I don't know if you've ever played Stargrave.
I have not. It's
Frostgrave.
Right, it's a science fiction version of Frostgrave. I haven't played either of those.
Yeah, Osprey Games, and I'm actually going to go down to Atlanta here in a few weeks, I think, if all goes well, to record a session at a gaming store for Jim Kelly's YouTube channel.
Cool. Oh.
Using our sound effects. I mean, he told me some of the spells that are in Stargrave, so I made some specific for him and for that particular game.
Nice. Yeah, that is cool. No, I mean, anyone who wants to add any kind of sound effect, it can be complex. Like I think it's really cool that working towards like the multi-die for something like, and I'll just throw out there, I've never done it, but like there's tons of people out there that play things like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, right? Why not? Why not have your guys, I don't know any of them, so it's more like anyone who wants to add an audio component to their table, right? Because you've got that customization and because you've got the option between the licensed sounds and the unlicensed that anyone could do, they could go and like my son rips sounds off of things from YouTube for his own personal, he does like stop animation, and so he'll pull like Godzilla stuff off, right? You pull your own sounds and add them. So I think it's pretty cool. I mean,
yeah, and you could take a picture of the card and that becomes the icon, right? So you actually even have that together to match.
I actually made a dongle because I wanted to hear your sounds through my speakers. I made an iPhone dongle to phono plug, and it gets the job done. It would be a way to, if you had a big enough interface, you could plug everybody in and actually record along the mics.
That's the web version. That's the podcasters have said to me like, "Oh, I would love to do this real time, right? An actual play." And I will, but a web version I think is going to be the answer for that. Yeah, totally. And I will tell you, people ask me like, "Oh, what actual games do you listen to?" And I'm like, I can't. I honestly, well, first of all, I have to listen to my sound. Like the project that I have, like when I'm painting, like doing terrain work or whatever, I can listen to a podcast. That's not a problem. I can listen to an actual play. But I will tell you, the most painful thing for me is watching and listening people count up their dice. That math element for me, like I've reached this like OCD element in my life. Like, dude, use my sound delve, auto count that damage. Like it's there, boom, it tells you immediately, and then it's somebody else's turn. I mean, if I'm listening to somebody's story, I don't want to have to wait 30 seconds for them to count up all their 4-sided dice. It's like it's really painful.
We try to cut out a ton of that because it's we're not fans of that either. We list some of it in, but it goes from this down to this.
Yeah, but you can't do that on Twitch.
No.
Right.
That's
the hardest part, for me anyway.
And again, it's tedious. So to do that, like a lot of people they go straight from Twitch and just take the same thing and put it on video on demand, and it's something, our sessions are usually like an hour and a half, and they come down to about an hour and 10. We usually have about 20 minutes out.
Awesome.
But some of these Twitch streams, like 2-3 hours.
4 hours,
and
just people looking up rules and
right.
Kill me out.
Yeah, I can't watch those either. Yeah.
I struggle. I really do. And there's so many cool creators and stuff, and it's like like on Twitter, on Wednesdays and Saturdays, it's like look at my shit, look at my shit, look at my shit. There's so much great shit out there. I would love to. I just don't have enough time in the day. I got to just pick and choose. And it's hard because my medium requires my audio attention unless I'm doing some terrain work. And then I can listen to that stuff.
I will make one recommendation to you. Get your own mic and get out there and just record stuff around your house. You will save... It is so satisfying to use your stuff that you've recorded yourself in your productions rather than going to the library. So I'm still using the library, but and I still need the library, but I've supplemented it quite a bit. And it's fun, and it's something you could probably do with your kids.
Yeah.
And they would probably enjoy the heck out of it too.
Well,
so.
it's funny you talk about like monster packs. So Nathan, we had an episode in our game where we knew we were going to have we'd already played it. We did the editing like months later. It's just the rhythm, but we knew we had zombies, and so we actually got together for a pen and paper in person game. And Nathan brought his gear, and he had all the people who showed up, to include some of the kids, after we were done, all make zombie noises, and then he sort of engineered them and then put them into the episode when it came up. So it's kind of a way to like to sort of get people to participate.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
And nobody would know it. It's like I'm reached a point where I'm good enough, and it's all background stuff anyway. So. They sound like zombies, so they sound like the way zombies are supposed to sound. So
I know what you're talking about. I had the hardest time for finding a sound for a were-rat. The hell does a were-rat sound like, right? I mean, you just have to kind of like make things up, and I couldn't. So I ended up making my own sounds, and me going like,
yeah.
You know, but you're right, Nathan. It was so satisfying. And I put it in there.
and you know what? Everybody does it. Most of the creature vocalizations, those are just guys yelling in the microphone. That's what they're doing.
Right. Right.
And some audio futzing in their DAW once they're done with it. But it's like I did the bullet. And that was like 90% me, and I used a little bit of elephant, but it was mostly me doing the bullet sounds.
Yeah, some underwater stuff too. Recently, you did some underwater fun. In the bathtub.
Yeah, I got I was throwing pennies and dimes into the bathtub for like arrow sounds going into the water, and I was blowing bubbles with a straw in there, and like it. I think it turned out great. Maybe not like. Not movie quality, but right. For like background actual play, and way too much work into something that I'm not getting paid for, but it was super fun.
You're paid with our gratitude. There you go. So.
Yeah.
Well, I guess anything else that you want to let us know? Anything you want to plug? This is probably a good time for that, right? Nathan, do you have any other questions?
No, we're just chatting.
Right? Yeah. No, these kinds of interviews are perfect, right? It's not. So what do you do about this? What do you about like, all right, we're going to cover a whole bunch of cool stuff anyway, right? And I've got some things that I wanted to get out there, like my roadmap, right? Mm-hmm. Subscriptions are the way I'm going to be able to build further things out. So, like we're reaching a point where the sound of the app itself is too large to store in the app stores. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to actually create a neutral space. It'll be my own server in the cloud, and that will allow us to have basically an applet. So there's about 100 sounds that are free. So anybody can download the app, and so far I've been very reticent about putting any ads. Like, you don't have to watch a video. I'm not making I'm not making it painful for you at all if you just want to stay free. Okay? So that's what you would download. And then if you wanted to be a subscriber, which I would hope most people would, you could then sync to our cloud, and then all those sounds come down to you. But having my own server allows me that goal I have of being a marketplace for other creators' sound effects, and I could be the interface. And so that could just be, a simple revenue share. Boom, boom, it goes right to that person's library downloads. It gives me a lot more flexibility. And another thing I want to do is rewards. So if you've created, like 25 scenarios, you're now a journeyman, builder or whatever. And so you get something for that. So, I've got an artist that's put some icons together. So we would have not only the sounds, but also some icons, but
some badges. So you're applying gamification into the
exactly.
Design. Yeah, that's
exactly. You got to create some stickiness. Like if I'm asking somebody to pay, so there's 3 subscription options. There's monthly, it's $5.99. If it's 6 months, it is, let me see if I get that right. No, it's $4.99. $3.99 per month if you prepay for 6 months, and then $2.99 a month for 12 months. I wanted my pricing to be cheaper than a rule book, basically. And so, I don't think I'm asking for too much for all that content that's in there. New content coming out every single month. There's a lot of customization capabilities within there as well. So, and then, of course, the pixel dice is going to be like the cherry on the top, which would be nice.
Super cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm not charging any more for that, right? So that's just like any new feature. One of the things that we talked about, again, it's called feature creep. Like, you have to say no. Right. That, no, it's a great idea, but no, I can't do it right now. But I want to be able to actually have some analytics. Like, is this sword performing well? I don't really know, because I'm playing my sessions and I think it's doing well, but I don't really keep track of that. So just like Warhammer does like all these battle reports, I want to be able to have something internal to the actual app so I can see my performance. Like, you know what? I should swap out that spell because it sucks. It fails like all the time, right?
Yeah.
And we just don't know. Cool. Intuitively we know, but we don't have any real stats. So I've got a lot of plans that I want to do. So I just need subscribers.
Get out there and subscribe, people. Yeah, support. Yeah. Right?
Please do.
Give it a shot. Try it out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's no skin off your teeth, right? Because it's a download for free, right? Yep. So cool. Thank you guys very much for your time tonight.
I know we've been talking about getting and chatting. I'm glad we're able to kind of get you on here and have me the geek and Matt Matt.
Yeah, you're
geek.
Up late too, Nathan. I mean, I'm a night owl, and you're right there with me, brother.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going back. We're liking each other's shit, like 2 a.m.
It's like what the hell? But thanks for coming on here. You're welcome to come back anytime you got something new to talk about. And
awesome.
We'll get this out to the folks and include all the links below in the under the video.
Awesome.
So you can check out all the how tos and what's its and
yeah. I got to redo my tutorials. They need to be redone, a little more zippy. I do have a commercial, but I'm waiting to get the new interface to be able to put
so you
that out
have
there.
Matt do tutorials. He's like the tutorial master.
Is that right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not. I've gotten some pretty good feedback on some of the game ones I've done, but it's so funny because people like them. To me, when I'm making them, it's too much like work. Like, I'm doing a training. I'm basically doing training material, but it's for a game. So it's kind of like he loves PowerPoint.
Yeah, but
I do love PowerPoint.
Right. I love PowerPoint too. Oh my God, it's my absolute favorite. I always create one for every session or every campaign that I do, even if it's a small one. And then
it's the Starfinder PowerPoint connection right here. It's like you guys should be besties.
No, it is. It's either PowerPoint or I've used some other programs. Like a lot of detailed notes, and I get made fun of a lot about the PowerPoint and the occasional business meeting. So
you know what? They're helpful. I convert into PDF. It's the latest and greatest. Here's what we did last session. And I save it for like a few days before the next session. Here you go, boom, read it. And then that way I don't have to spend an hour going through like, hey, you guys were too drunk to remember this, but this is what we did, right?
Feeling called out.
Yeah, you are getting called out, especially last night, whatever the heck that thing you were drinking.
Oh,
all right. Well,
you guys were fun to talk with. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
We've really enjoyed meeting, there's a lot of folks out there who are self-generating, right? Like we've talked to a couple people that are like, they're part of a big, but most of the folks we've talked to, these are labors of love. They're out of pocket, like, right? It's out of pocket. And, I think that's what a lot of this ingenuity and stuff is being driven by. And that's why we got to get out and support it. And feed Nathan's Kickstarter addiction, but to get out and help people, right? Because there's a lot of innovation out there.
Yeah, I thought about Kickstarter, and I reached out to those folks, and I talked with a guy at BackerKit, because a couple years ago they had Gen Con virtual, and BackerKit had given a presentation. I watched it, and I reached out, and I'm like, hey, I got this idea. It's really cool. Sign an NDA, and he did, and we talked, and he's like, Christian, it's a great idea, but nobody supports apps for Kickstarters. They just, for whatever reason, we think, I'll spend a bunch of money on print material, but nothing on electronic. Oh, apps should be for free. I don't know where this culture phenomena has come from.
Only one app I've backed is a 3D printing. 3D printing app. Basically, you can build a town or a house or something like that with it. That's the only one app I've backed. That's actually really good. Of course, I haven't printed.
But I mean, I'd say that any electronic format like that is going to be a lot more expensive than the artists and the print material and the print house and all that for a PDF or even a hardcover book. Yeah. But whatever. It's culture. It's culture. Awesome, guys. I could keep talking for another 2 hours, by the way.
We'll cut the interview here. And
we'll save the audience.
But thanks for watching, everybody.
Are we saying goodbye?
Yeah, saying goodbye. Say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, guys. Thank you.
All right, good night.